Good morning, everyone, and welcome. We're pleased to have today with us Ontario Power Generation and the Canadian Infrastructure Bank to announce a momentous announcement. My name is Ida Chipola, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer at Ontario Power Generation. Before we begin our event today, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the lands on which Bob Lincoln Hill is situated, and that they're within the shared traditional treaties of the Chippewa and Mississauga of the Anishinaabe, collectively known as the Mississauga Treaties First Nation. We also acknowledge that the Williams Treaty First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of these lands, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. OPG is committed to developing positive and mutually benefiting relationships with Indigenous communities. At each stage of the Darlington New Nuclear Project, we have prioritized engagement with Indigenous communities. Those rights or interests may be impacted by the project's development. Our respect for the constitutional rights of the Indigenous people and communities is the foundation of our Reconciliation Action Plan, which includes actions that will factor into project planning and further inform our engagement. I'd like to thank you for all being here with us today. In 2020, we released our Climate Action Plan that included two key goals. The first, that we would be net zero by 2040, and the second, that we would help economies where OPG operates achieve net zero by 2050. Clean and reliable nuclear power is a critical role in the electricity system of the future, and small modular reactors are a key solution to achieving our climate's change goals. There's simply no credible path forward to net zero emissions that does not include nuclear power. Today's announcement is another step towards delivering the first commercial grade scale reactor in Ontario by the end of the decade, and in realizing our vision of electrifying life in one generation. Please welcome Sean Conway, representing Curve Lake First Nations.
Ani bonjour, kinawea, Sean Conway, Disney Kaja, Skigamang Donjiba, Makwa Dodem. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sean Conway. I'm coming from Curve Lake First Nation. It's my honor to be here and represent our community and specifically give remarks from my chief, Gima Keith Knott, who sends his regrets. I want to thank all of our partners for being here, and I want to highlight the relationship that we've built with the energy sector in Curve Lake First Nation and commend OPG and various proponents in all of their hard work in reaching out and having conversations with our community. These are important steps on our way on the path of reconciliation, and I want to further extend my thanks to everyone who's here for understanding how important that relationship is as we look to greening our economy and building the economy of tomorrow. Much appreciated. Thank you very much for having me today. Miigwech.
Thank you, Sean. It's an honor to hear your perspectives and to have you here with us today. Thank you. Please warmly welcome CIB's CEO, Ehren Cory.
Hello, good morning, everyone. What a beautiful morning in a beautiful setting. It's great to be here. It's great to be here for an announcement as important as today's. Thanks, Ida, for the introduction, and thank you for being a great partner throughout the last months as we've worked towards today's announcement. Ken and the team at OPG, you are great partners, and I extend that to, I see many others from the industry here today, and I think we've been building a really productive relationship together, so thank you. It's great to see so many of you here today. It's great to also be joined by both Minister Smith and Minister Wilkinson. What's exciting about projects like this is the engagement of local communities, the mayor and regional chair being here, ministers of both Ontario and Canada, First Nations, and the electricity sector itself. I think that's what makes infrastructure projects happen, is when we can bring broad groups of people together. And the CIB, that's one of the central things we're trying to do as we look to accelerate the build out of the infrastructure our country needs. The Canada Infrastructure Bank was created with the idea that we have a significant gap between the infrastructure of today and the infrastructure we need to build the economy and the society we aspire to. And so we look at every project through the lens of the outcomes that it delivers. Infrastructure is steel and concrete, but it's ultimately about outcomes. It's about faster commute times, better high-speed connectivity, and really importantly, a transition to a clean electricity grid. So at the CIB, we're very focused on investments that drive us towards those outcomes. We're called the Canada Infrastructure Bank. There's bank in our name, so these are investments. We get financial payback, but ultimately we measure our payback in outcomes. A project like the build of new nuclear here at Darlington delivers significant outcomes. It's estimated to deliver nearly 750,000 tons of GHG emission reduction from our grid every year. And so that's the kind of investment that gets us really excited. We are, of course, working with our partners throughout the electricity sector. And as someone asked me, what's more important? We got to build a grid. We need to build more renewables. We need baseload power, reliable, clean, non-emitting power like nuclear. And the answer is all of the above. This is an everything at once problem that we face. And so the challenge is, how do we build the generating assets, renewables and nuclear? How do we build a transmission grid that's reliable and gets clean power everywhere across our country? How do we build storage solutions that help us use power when we need it? How do we make buildings more efficient and use electricity, clean electricity? And how do we make our transportation fleets clean? And so the CIB is acting in every one of those places with partners like OPG today. So our investment, as announced, over $900 million in getting this project launched as quickly as possible and in showing the role that new nuclear can play as part of that overall clean solution. That's what we're here for, we're really excited about, and we're excited to work together. I know there are other provinces, and we're continuing to talk with in New Brunswick and Saskatchewan and Alberta, who are also looking at their projects. And this is, I think, as an industry, really exciting. That's why this project, I think, starts to set the groundwork for additional non-emitting power in our country, for the important role nuclear can play. I would be remiss to not mention, just looking out at the crowd, it is also a real reminder of how this is an industry and how building new nuclear has broad economic benefits well beyond the plant. So again, when I talk about outcomes and I think of the economic growth and opportunity that comes from nuclear, that's also an important part of the story. We will continue to work with partners across the country. We recently announced our clean electric vehicle and hydrogen refueling initiative, which we're also in partnership with NRCan, working together really closely on how do you drive the demand side of this equation. We're working on regional transmission projects across our country to find ways to better connect our grid and have clean electrons flow. And we will continue to work here in Ontario and in other provinces towards renewing the next generation of non-emitting clean power, just like this plant. So really excited. Thanks, Ministers Wilkinson and Smith, for your support. Working with both levels of government has been important. Thanks, Sean. Great to meet you today, and great to have active engagement of First Nations. That's a core mandate of the CIB and all of our projects, so I'm excited that OPG has already been building and fostering that relationship, and I look forward to working through this project with you, Ken, and team at OPG, and on other of your initiatives as we go forward. Thanks very much. Back to you, Ada.
Thank you, Ehren, and I must say it's been a pleasure working with the complete CIB team, including yourself and your leadership team, so thank you. We're very pleased to welcome Canada's Minister of Natural Resources, Jonathan Wilkinson, to the Darlington nuclear site. Minister Wilkinson will provide some additional insight into CIB's largest investment in clean power generation to date.
Bonjour tout le monde, et merci d'être là aujourd'hui. It's great to be here with all of you, and thank you to all of the other distinguished speakers who are with us today. Je commencerai par reconnaître que nous sommes réunis ici aujourd'hui sur le territoire traditionnel de la nation Wendat, Anishinaabeg, et les territoires couverts par les Premières Nations et les traités Williams. Today is a first in Canada, and one of the first of any G7 nation. As Ehren just mentioned, the Government of Canada is pleased to be supporting the deployment of the first grid-scale small modular reactor here at Darlington through the Canada Infrastructure Bank. Through this low-interest debt financing of $970 million, we are unlocking phase one of this project, which will lay the groundwork for the development of the SMR. This SMR is scheduled to begin producing power in 2028. This loan comes from the CIB's $5 billion Clean Power Priority Sector Fund, which provides funding for clean power, district energy, storage, and transmission. This work is made possible because in the last federal budget, we expanded the role of the Canada Infrastructure Bank, enabling it to invest in infrastructure projects that will accelerate Canada's transition to a low-carbon economy. This includes projects such as small modular reactors. Folks will actually be able to see the first Canadian small modular research reactor in action quite soon, in 2026. This will be a 5-megawatt micro-modular reactor design that is set to be deployed at the Canadian Nuclear Laboratory site at Chalk River. Small modular reactors can be a key technology in delivering a net zero future. This is why the Government of Canada is actively supporting the deployment and research in this area. The federal government has been supporting SMR development through programs like the Strategic Innovation Fund, which invested $20 million to advance Ontario-based terrestrial energy's reactor design. Through the same fund, we invested $50 million to help New Brunswick's Moltex energy reactor and technology to recycle CANDU spent nuclear fuel into new fuel. And we invested another $27 million in financing for Westinghouse Electric to help advance micro-reactors in Saskatchewan. The last federal budget also provided significant financial and policy support to develop and deploy SMRs, advance uranium exploration, and spur nuclear supply chain opportunities. This included $70 million in research to minimize waste generated from reactors, to create a fuel supply chain, to strengthen international nuclear cooperation agreements, to enhance domestic safety and security practices. We are also investing $50 million for the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission to develop appropriate regulations for small modular reactors and to work with international partners on global regulatory harmonization. From uranium development in Saskatchewan to cross-cutting and cutting-edge reactors here in Ontario to Canada's history of successful international deployment of CANDU technology, this country has led and is leading nuclear development throughout the supply chain. All of these investments are in addition to the ongoing $1.2 billion revitalization of the federal nuclear laboratories in Chalk River. We are doing this because nuclear energy as a non-emitting source of energy is critical to the achievement of Canada's and the world's climate goals. We are also doing this because this is an area of the economy that can help drive good jobs and economic prosperity as we transition towards a lower carbon future. As a Tier 1 nuclear nation with over 70 years of technological leadership, a world-class regulator, and a strong domestic supply chain, our nuclear sector is poised to be a leader in an emerging global market that some estimate to be worth up to $150 billion a year by 2040. Let me emphasize that in order to achieve our climate and our economic goals, Canada must be open to all non-emitting technologies and energy sources that can compete effectively in the market of energy technologies. Nuclear power is one source of baseload power that can help in reaching our climate targets while addressing future demand. Most estimates, Canada will need to double or triple our electricity capacity, our generation capacity by 2050 to keep up with growing demand associated with the electrification of a whole range of applications, including transportation, home heating, and others. And according to the International Energy Agency, a pathway to net zero by 2050 without nuclear power will be much slower, more expensive, and more risky. More generally, for Canada to remain competitive internationally and to drive economic growth over the long term, we have to think about economic opportunities both sectorally and regionally. We need an economic plan for the future that is based on comparative advantage, one that aligns the efforts and resources of all levels of government, as well as the private sector, a plan that respects the rights and the interests of Indigenous people. The The partnership between Ontario and Canada that is showcased by the announcement today reflects the importance of effective federal-provincial collaboration as we look to build a prosperous economy of the future. I believe such collaboration is extremely important, and it is also why in June we launched what we've called the Regional Energy and Resource Tables. The goal of these tables, which are being launched in partnership between federal, provincial, and territorial governments, are to identify the most significant 3, 4, 5 areas of economic opportunity in each province and territory that can be enabled through the transition to a lower carbon future. Unique and substantive opportunities that can truly move the needle from an economic perspective. Sectorally, these kinds of opportunities will come from new products that enable a low carbon future, such as critical minerals, hydrogen, electric cars and buses, battery technology, renewable energy technology, low carbon building products, sustainable forestry, small modular reactors, and other clean technologies. Regionally, each province has a relatively unique mix of their own natural resources. So the economic opportunities that are available to Alberta will be different from those available to Ontario and different again from those available to Nova Scotia. And therefore, we need to have approaches that reflect the specific opportunities that are available in different parts of this country. Nous utilisons une approche progressive pour démarrer ces tables avec l'intention d'avoir des tables en cours de chaque province et territoire d'ici la fin de cette année ou au début de l'année prochaine. Nous avons entamé le processus avec 3 provinces, la Colombie-Britannique, Terre-Neuve et Labrador et le Manitoba. Et le 12 octobre, nous avons lancé 5 tables supplémentaires dans une deuxième phase avec le Yukon, les territoires du Nord-Ouest, l'île de Prince-Édouard, la Nouvelle-Écosse, et la Nouveau-Brunswick. This morning, I am pleased to announce that the federal government and the province of Ontario are launching a regional energy and resource table for Ontario. Through this table, we will seek to establish joint goals, align resources, and identify additional resources that may be required, and we will work to align and accelerate regulatory and permitting processes. We will be seeking engagement with Indigenous leadership and key partners, including industry and labor. I certainly want to thank Minister Smith for his partnership. I very much look forward to working with him going forward for the benefit of Ontarians and all Canadians. Through our cooperation, we will help to secure Canada's success as a leading supplier of clean energy, clean products, and clean technology to the world. Tomorrow, I will be in Washington, D.C., and I think Minister Smith will be there as well, to speak to leaders from around the world at the International Atomic Energy Agency's Ministerial on Nuclear Power. At these meetings, I intend to underline Canada's desire to support our friends and partners with energy and energy technology, very much including nuclear, as they address climate and energy security concerns. Encore une fois, je tiens à remercier et à féliciter tous ceux qui sont ici aujourd'hui. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Minister Wilkinson. Now I'd like to ask our President and CEO, Ken Hartwick, to tell us more about how this low-interest financing helps advance the Darlington new nuclear project.
Good morning, and I do want to welcome everybody here, both Sean Conway, who started off from Curve Lake, as well as Minister Wilkinson and Minister Smith, and Ehren Cory from CIB, and a special welcome and congratulations to Mayor Foster and Regional Chair Henry on both being here and their re-election last night in the municipal elections. So I want to congratulate both of them, and both of whom are huge supporters of both OPG and nuclear and the economic development of this region. So it is a really important part of what we do, and I really do appreciate what both do for us. So with the CIB announcement, this is a really good next step for nuclear, and as Minister Wilkinson mentioned, all technologies are going to be required for us to achieve climate goals and targets that we want to set out. And the work with CIB was really under the foundation of another technology that can advance us towards our climate change goals and objectives. And I think a lot of this is made possible by the success nuclear has had in Ontario and New Brunswick and then obviously Saskatchewan announced they're going in this direction as well, and possibly Alberta. And I really do want to thank my partner in the Ontario nuclear industry, Mike Renchek. He's here from Bruce Power, and it's been the success of our two entities in showing that nuclear can be done the right way, can be cost effective, and a good technology is what is allowing our station behind us to be refurbished, as well as the Bruce Power units to be refurbished, and the success of nuclear that I think will benefit Canada both economically as well as environmentally for generations to come. So Mike, thanks for all your help in regards to us getting here on this, and for the many other things that we will do with nuclear along the way. So I think with the Infrastructure Bank, what really sort of has helped is this joint commitment to achieving climate goals that the federal government and the province have set out, and then working towards agreement that will allow us to have certainty to finance the construction of the small modular reactors that we will build just a little bit east of here down the hill to be the next form of generation at Darlington. And it's been a great working relationship with CIB, one that we will continue to work on over the next many years as we bring the station into operation in latter part of 28, and begin to have our small modular technologies support across the country. But I think as importantly, supplement the large nuclear reactors that we have, both us and Bruce Power and New Brunswick Power, as a way for Canada to achieve its long-term vision of achieving its climate goals by 2040 and then 2050. So really this is a really good day for nuclear overall. I think it's one that nuclear has earned in Ontario in particular with the success that us and Bruce Power have had, and one that we are going to set out to make both the company, but I think then also the country proud of what we accomplish with the next phase of what we do on the nuclear side. So with that, thank you very much, and really appreciate everybody being here today.
Thank you, Ken. We also have with us today Ontario's Minister of Energy, Todd Smith. Minister Smith has spoken many times about the importance of SMRs and their role in providing clean, low-cost baseload power for our provinces. And now I'll welcome Minister Smith.
Thanks very much, Ida. Good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful day here in Ontario and Canada's clean energy capital, the Durham region, and it's great to be here with our recently re-elected regional champion, as I like to call him, John Henry. Congratulations, John, and our local mayor, Adrian Foster. Congratulations on great election victories last night, gentlemen. Also great to be here with my federal counterpart, the Minister for Natural Resources Canada, Jonathan Wilkinson. Thank you for your announcement here today, Jonathan, and your collaboration over the last several months that we've been working together. Today's announcement represents another giant step forward in our government's plan to build the world's first commercial grid-scale small modular reactor right here on site in Darlington. It's also a major step forward in furthering our reputation as a global SMR technology hub here. And this means building on the reputation that comes from our world-class nuclear operators and our supply chain, led by Ken Hartwick from OPG and Mike Renchek from Bruce Power. Great to see you, Mike. As well as the leadership role Ontario has taken in Canada and around the world when it comes to SMR development and eventual deployment. And that work is already paying off, because as we face increasing energy demand in Ontario as a result of a strong period of economic growth and increasing electrification, I know the first SMR here at Darlington will play an important role in providing reliable, clean baseload power for our electricity grid. Over the past year, I've appreciated my many conversations with Minister Wilkinson, in which I've highlighted the importance of federal support for this first-of-a-kind project in Canada. The investment of $970 million from the Canada Infrastructure Bank is a recognition of that advocacy, and will support our work as OPG takes the next critical step in the project. And thanks to Ehren, Cory from CIB for making the announcement here this morning. That includes completing all site preparation work prior to the construction of the project here. That's work that's going to keep us on track for the SMR to be operational and providing reliable and clean energy to our grid by 2028. Today's announcement is also important because it signals that the federal government and CIB's commitment to nuclear technology is real, and the role it needs to play when it comes to growing and electrifying our economy for decades to come. And that's an important signal to send because it's clear that the world is watching Ontario, and it's clear that the world is watching Canada. And when I say the world is watching, I'm not exaggerating at all. Earlier this month, actually a couple of weeks ago, I had the opportunity to travel and meet with governments from Poland, Estonia, and the Czech Republic and heard firsthand about their interest in SMRs. They're looking to Ontario and they're looking to Canada for solutions to help secure a supply of affordable energy, clean the air in their jurisdictions, and achieve energy independence. And the consistent message in every country was that they're looking at our project here at Darlington as the model on how to do it right. I know that's a responsibility that Ontario's world-class nuclear industry is ready for. I look forward to continued progress on this important project and to working with Minister Wilkinson and his team and the federal government to see how they can continue to support our work. And on that point, I'm really pleased that today our government's announced the priorities for the Canada-Ontario regional table that Minister Wilkinson mentioned. This table is going to support further conversations about federal support for the work that we're doing to grow our clean, affordable electricity grid and develop our critical minerals right here in Ontario, as well as how we can streamline requirements for energy and resource projects that are important to Ontarians and are important to Canadians and indeed important to the world. So let's get out there and let's get it done, folks. Thanks everyone for being here this morning.
Thank you, Minister Smith. And now I'd like to welcome re-elected Chair of the Durham Regional, John Harry, to say a few words. Congratulations, Chair Henry.
So good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the fastest growing region in all of Ontario. And I'm proud to be here today because Durham generates 30% of the power to the province of Ontario. Minister Smith said it, we are the energy capital of Canada, but this project, it's a lifetime project. Not very many politicians can go to an event that is going to change the world, and it's going to happen right here in Durham region. I'm incredibly proud to be here with Mayor Foster today, and ministers, thank you, recognizing our Indigenous people. But today you have 4 levels of government here, all committed to making change. The region's investment in Ontario Tech, one of the only nuclear engineering schools in the country, actually in North America, and our investment in Durham College to bring trades to help build this project are key to making it successful. Companies are moving to Durham from around the world because it's a place to be, and this is one of the projects that's driving that. So on behalf of the region of Durham, I want to welcome you today, and I want you all to remember that you were here today when the world was being changed. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Chair Henry. I'd also like to welcome newly elected Mayor of Clarington, Adrian Foster, to the podium. Mr. Foster.
Well, good morning all, and this is a really good morning. Welcome to Clarington. Some of you will have heard me say that when the sun rises in the east to greet the Greater Toronto Area, it gently kisses Clarington first. And this morning, when it rose in the east, it gently shed light on the birth of a multi-billion-dollar industry right here in our backyard. And as we heard from Chair Henry, how many people can say that they were at a world-changing event and this morning, and thanks to the help of our colleagues on every level of government, we are here for the birth of that industry, and we can remember it. This is the first official event that Chair Henry and I have been at after the election. What a way to start a new term. Thank you for that and for the timing of this. And I will leave very briefly. I have to give a shout out to the Clarington Board of Trade. We've got Sheila Hall and Bonnie here, and if I'm missing someone, but the Board of Trade has nurtured the relationship with the nuclear industry, providing economic development for Clarington for a number of years, and your efforts have not gone unnoticed. And again, for all of you being here, for the industry, OPG, thank you, welcome, and did I say thank you?
Thank you, Mayor Foster. Thank you, all of you, for being here today and sharing in this important milestone. The funding and the support that CIB is crucial step in the development of small modular reactors and ensuring a strong, secure, and clean electricity system. We now welcome any questions from the media, and let me throw things over to OPG's Neil Kelly.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Neil Kelly. I'm the Director of Media for Ontario Power Generation. So we can start the Q&A. You can ask questions of any of the speakers. There's two ways that we can do this. Accredited media that are with us this morning can step forward to the microphone. If media online want to ask a question, I'll tell you what, send it to media@opg.com. media@opg.com. I'll get it on my phone and I'll ask the question to whatever speaker you would like me to ask it to. So I think I'll throw it over to Martin from CBC. He has a question for Ken Hartwick.
Thank you, Neil. Hello, I'm Martin Trainer from CBC News. I recall being here in the 1985 era, I suppose, when Darlington was being built. So it takes decades to make this kind of project. And it was planned that Darlington B was to be here as well. Just want to be sure that, clear that Darlington B is not going to be built anymore, but these SMRs will. But it seems like a very tight timeline to have 2028 to actually be generating power. Can you explain the difference between this, the CANDO technology and this SMRs, that they can be built so quickly?
Yeah, I think the basic concept, and first of all, the CANDO technology is a great technology. The ones that Bruce Power operates, that we operate, that New Brunswick Power operates. I think the idea on building quicker is the middle letter in an SMR. It's more of it being modularized so that more of the work can be done in a factory. You know, a lot of it will be done in Cambridge, Ontario, and elsewhere, as opposed to construction on site. I also think a lot of what Bruce Power and us have learned in doing our refurbishments, which are being done on time, on budget by both companies, is how technology's been introduced into what we do as a construction company. And this is really, really important. So I think it's one of these things where the industry has learned a lot of lessons. We learn a lot from Bruce Power. I think they learn a little bit from us. And ultimately, we will jointly work on making this successful. So we think the 28 timeline is very doable. And it's because of the modular nature of what we're trying to accomplish versus a 4,000 megawatt construction site, which is what you see in the background.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Mirna Jukic for Radio Canada. The question is for Minister Wilkinson. Minister, I'm going to ask it in French, and if you could answer in French as well. Les projets de petits réacteurs modulaires à l'international ont presque tous des délais beaucoup plus longs que prévu, 2 à 4 fois plus longs que prévu en ce moment. Est-ce que c'est un investissement risqué pour le Canada, 970 millions de dollars?
Je crois que non. Le Canada a été un pays dans lequel nous avons beaucoup d'expérience avec les systèmes nucléaires, le CANDO bien sûr, mais nous avons fait beaucoup de recherches sur le sujet des SMR et nous avons fait beaucoup de conversations avec avec Ontario et avec OPG dans cette question. Nous avons fait aussi avec le laboratoire à Chalk River, nous avons commencé un projet déjà et nous pensons que nous devons faire face à la crise de changement climatique. Et dans cette crise, nous devons assurer que nous avons tous les utiles qu'on peut utiliser pour réduire les gaz à effet de serre. Et les systèmes de nucléaire et bien sûr les SMR, c'est un des utiles qu'on doit commencer d'utiliser.
All right, and a follow-up in English to whoever wants to take it, really. I'm just wondering if someone can contextualize a little bit the size of this project once it will be done. How much power will it give? And if you can put it in simple terms for the public, please.
Sure. So the project timeline is to be completed by the end of 28. Each reactor is approximately 300 megawatts. So think about 300,000 houses. The 4 reactors behind us here are 950 each. So just to put it into perspective. And I think as we move forward on the first reactor, the first SMR, we'll design the site to probably build 4 at the site, but we'll only start the second one when we know we are successful on the first one. So the technology itself, 300 megawatts, powers a lot of houses. You can think of, contextualize that within the size of a city that we're looking at. But it is an important aspect of meeting the electrification goals of Ontario and then ultimately other provinces that head down this path as well.
Okay, thanks, Ken. I have a question for Minister Smith. It's from Durham Region Media. Minister Smith, they're wondering, will there be any provincial government investment outside of the Canada Infrastructure Bank in financing at this time?
Well, the cost of this project will be paid for through rates down the road, but not until this project is actually operating on the grid. All of our nuclear assets are paid for through a regulated price plan that we have with the province. So right now we're very supportive of the work that's going on here. Obviously at Darlington Nuclear a couple of weeks ago we announced that we were extending Pickering Nuclear, operated by OPG as well, and they're also doing a feasibility study to determine whether or not that would be refurbished. That would all be paid for eventually through the ratepayers here in Ontario. And the one thing that I would say about our nuclear fleet is that it does provide, including Bruce Power, about 60% of our baseload electricity every single day. That's a lot of megawatts. That's clean, emissions-free electricity that employs about 76,000 people in our province, including thousands operating at the site. So these are good paying jobs, and that's why we have our regional chair and our local mayor here this morning as well, tremendous champions of this project and the nuclear advantage that we have in Ontario. These small modular reactors are obviously going to benefit those who already work in the sector but create new jobs, and we're seeing that already happening with GE Hitachi, which is the chosen technology here at the Darlington site. They're employing hundreds more, many of them right here in Ontario. So this is a great news story from a jobs front, it's a great news story from a clean air front, and it's a great economic opportunity for Canada in general.
Hi, Brian Weatherhead, CTV News. Just a quick question about what this is going to cost the consumer. Interest, it's a low interest loan, but rates are going up. What will this do to the average consumer's bill paying back the investments?
So I think that when we looked at really starting with the cost of electricity, we think ultimately the cost to build an SMR or for the site itself will be very competitive with any other form of technology. So it's going to be in the same range, same average as what we see technologies currently being factored in. I think the really important part of the CIB loan was 2 things. It gave us certainty on the financing of the project, which will still take 6 years to do, which I think is an important step, and then a very competitive interest rate that would allow us to have certainty around the cost ultimately back to ratepayers. And to me then, beyond that, it's really the signal of the support by the federal government, which is something that the nuclear industry is very appreciative of. It's a big part of what we want to do. And we've always had that in Ontario, and I think with what Minister Wilkinson's comments were really starting to focus everybody into how do we achieve our climate goals. But this project will be competitive with any other form of technology.
Hey, thanks, Ken. We have one more question. It's for Mr. Cory. Mr. Cory, if you'd step to the podium, it is from the Globe and Mail from Matt McLaren. And Mr. Cory, he'd like to know, what's the interest rate of this loan?
So I'll start by saying, as just building on Ken's last answer, when the CIB looks at every one of our investments, the question we start with is, what's stopping the project from moving forward? What's the thing that's holding it back? And there are many infrastructure projects in this country, by the way, that we look at and say they're happening on their own, they're happening commercially, and they don't need our support. When we do get involved in a project, is to do two things, and Ken, I think, described it really well. One is to share risks. So in a project like this, part of what we're doing is helping to partner with OPG as the technology gets developed. The second is to provide long-term, low-cost, stable financing. I won't comment on the interest rate other than to say, as Ken did, the goal here is to get the technology built while making sure that it's affordable to Ontario ratepayers over the long term. So our loan helps reduce the total delivered cost of the project in a meaningful way that makes the project that much more competitive. And that's what we're trying to do in each of our loans.
Cory? And I think that's it for the Q&A. Thank you very much, and I'll throw it back to Ida Chipola.
Thank you, Neil. Once again, we'd like to welcome everyone that's made it out here to Darlington Nuclear Power Plant to be with us on this very important day. We'd also like to thank everyone that's joined us virtually today to participate in this announcement. I'd like to ask that all the speakers remain for a quick photo opportunity, and I send you best wishes on your way back home and to have a wonderful day. Thank you, everyone.